Hi, it's Adam here. I'm backstage at Dave's Leicester Comedy Festival for Demon FM with Gary Delaney.
Hello, Adam.
Good evening.
I am Gary.
So I guess the first question is, are you looking forward to tonight?
Yes, I am. Yeah, do you mind? I'm gonna have a sip of my.
No, go ahead.
I'm being pretty rock and roll
That's
having a cup of tea
fine,
as we do. But, no, I've heard this is a nice gig, and I just went in as soon as I got in. Just had a quick look out on the stage to look at the room, and it's bloody massive, isn't it? So
I believe it's sold out as well.
Yeah. Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
Excellent. Oh, good. What is the capacity? Must be
1,500, I think.
1,500, right?
Yes.
So I think that looks really good, and I think a big proper, what we call a room laugh, where basically you've got everybody. I think that'll feel quite powerful. In a big room like that, if you get everyone laughing, that should feel like a sort of punch in the face almost,
Well,
in a good way.
De Montfort is known for its kind of big crowds and attracting big audiences to gigs. So
Nice. No,
hopefully
it's a proper tour venue, isn't it?
It is,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So no, I'm looking forward to that, and I'm going to watch the first half. I'm on in the second half, so I'm going to watch the first half to see how much of my rude stuff I'm going to have to cut out. I suspect quite a lot. So I'm going to watch, and every time they go ooh, I'll go through my set list with a red pen and go, right, not saying that, not saying that, not saying that, not tonight, Mr. Saville, and just lose jokes.
Does that happen a lot to you then? Do you often have to alter what you're...
A little bit. You certainly do when you go to somewhere that's a bit theatre-y.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like a theatre gig, so you don't necessarily do the same stuff in a theatre that you do at a Jongleurs or a big drunky Stag's Hens thing or a festival or whatever. There's horses for courses.
Now, you say you got to edit a lot of stuff out. Is there a lot of new stuff that you bring along tonight?
Yeah, there is. I'm trying to do a sort of mix of. It's a bit of a showcase, so there's going to be quite a lot of old classics in there and some jokes I've been doing for donkey's years because they just work. But there's quite a lot of stuff that I've written in the last 3 months because I'm working up towards going up to the Edinburgh Festival this next year. So I've been writing a lot of stuff these last 3 months, which is the stuff that I'm going to be trying to road test in the little sort of preview show I got at the Leicester Festival. And I've cherry-picked some of that stuff. So there's some stuff I've been knocking about in clubs for the last couple of months, and there's a couple of jokes that I only wrote on Sunday and tested out, and I thought they were really good. So I'm really excited about them. So they're going straight. This will be their first testing at a big gig. So you'll either get to see me hit a bit that I'm clearly excited about and just be unable to contain my joy if it works, or just sulk and call the audience fuckers if it dies on its hands. Am I allowed to swear? Call the audience meanies if it dies. There we go.
You have quite a big Twitter presence.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of material from there? Can you test out any jokes on there at all?
We were just having a bit of a chat about this in the dressing room actually with a few of the other comics who do Twitter. Yes and no. In the early days, I joined Twitter about 4 years ago when there weren't really that many people on Twitter, and in those days I only had a sort of couple hundred followers rather than what I've got now, like 30,000 or something. So in those days you could test stuff really easily without worrying that means that people are going to come to your gig next week and say, oh, didn't you do that on Twitter last week, right? But now, I've got, 37,000 followers and there's loads of other people on Twitter. So if you put a good joke up there that gets a lot, you put something that gets 1,000 retweets and the people who retweet have got loads of followers, it might get seen by literally millions of people. So that really limits your scope to go and use it on stage. So I probably put less stuff on Twitter than I did 2 or 3 years ago, and I have to be a bit careful to make sure that it's stuff that I think is good, but stuff that doesn't really work on stage for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So things that I think will work on stage, I tend to keep just for stage. Sometimes I get too excited. Sometimes I get a joke that I'm stuck in a traffic jam or something, and I put something straight up, and then I regret it. I think, I should have put that in my live pile. Or sometimes I put something up because I think it's a good joke, but it's a bit too geeky to ever work in a club, and I post it up. And then it clearly proves to be a much more popular than I thought, and I think, should have saved that one. For one of the jokes I'll almost certainly do tonight was originally something I put on Twitter before realising how good it was, which was, what's the joke? I got a new job playing a triangle in a reggae band, and ting. Right? Which is a lovely little joke. And I wrote that and I thought, no one's ever going to... It's a really obscure little joke. It'll never work in clubs. I put it up there and it was like, clearly that's a much funnier joke than I ever gave it credit for. Should never put it on Twitter. But once it's out there, it's out there.
So you do use Twitter to...
Occasionally. When I make a mistake, I do. Yeah. If I've misjudged something that I put on Twitter and it's better than I thought, then it will end up on stage. But I don't intend to use on stage things that I put on Twitter first.
So, kind of with your jokes, what comedians have influenced you over the years, and what generally influences you to write your jokes?
I love all the one-liner guys. So, I mean, the best of the guys working today, Emo Phillips, Stephen Wright, over here, Milton Jones, Jimmy Carr, Stuart Francis, the late Mitch Hedberg, fantastic. And then, but going back, I like Henny Youngman, operating through the 50s, 60s, a real traditional sort of gag man. He was the guy who wrote "Take My Wife, Please," the archetypal one-liner. Although there's an interesting story behind that, because I did read his autobiography recently, which is hilariously called "Take My Life, Please," and that was actually an accident when he first said that joke. He was being shown. He was doing a TV gig and being shown through the studio, and his wife was with him and being a bit of a fusspot. And he wanted to get one of the runners just to sort of take her to one side and just pop on a chair and get her out of the way. So he said to the runner, "Take my wife, please." And everyone started laughing, and he was like, "Well, that wasn't a joke, but they're all laughing, so I'm going to keep that." There you go, using somebody else's anecdotes in an interview. That's a great. So, but I love it. But then because the one-liner thing it comes in and out of fashion. It's probably in at the minute, but I've listening to some Max Miller stuff from the 1930s. An old music hall guy doing what's basically a one-liner set, and it's amazing. But he's doing topical jokes about Hitler and gas masks and things. He's doing stuff about, you've all got your gas mask under your seat, and because that was the sort of topical stuff at the time, which is really weird to hear. But it's still essentially he's doing the same thing.
So you do go back a few years when you look for influence?
Yeah, I'd say all those. The basic style of one-liners, I'm sure it was around long before it was ever recorded. I recorded on tape. It's just the shortest way to get to the joke. People try to make it more sort of clever. What's the word? Clever sounding than it is. I can't even think of the right word for clever sounding. There's a much better word I'm looking for, but it'll come to me on the drive home. But it's not as difficult as you think. You take the surprise, you put it at the end, and you hide it, and you keep it short. That's how you write a one-liner. And the best way out, my main influence of writing to one-liners is. I know I work better already as hourly by ear. So if I hear a phrase that I think I can muck about with, I make a note of it, and then I'll muck about it with it and try and turn it into a joke. So which is put it at the end and hide it. So I listen to a lot of talk radio and things because you hear a lot of idiots there, and idiots tend to use more cliches and figures of speech and use them more badly and slightly wrong than say listening to Stephen Fry when you're not going to get that sort of thing. So listening to idiots. And picking apart the things they've said incorrectly is a really good way of writing jokes.
You're now kind of part of a comedy couple with Sarah Milligan.
Yes.
Do you help each other write? What's the deal with that?
No. We have very sort of distinct styles, really. She sort of talks about her life and real things, and I just make up stuff with words, so no.
Not at all?
No. The most we would do is you sometimes tweak each other's jokes. Yeah. So we often try stuff out together, and then you go, that joke, but it'd be funnier if you move that bit to the end or make that bit about a dog or move that word, but that's it. We don't sort of it's very easy. If something happens and it's if something funny happens in real life, that's hers. If there's a word with two meanings, that's mine. It's a fairly simple demarcation we have as to who does what.
And do you kind of intend to be touring together at all in the next year or so?
Very distinct audiences. No.
Yeah, you don't.
No, no. And also rather a difference of scale. Like I've put a little tour in, which is 10 or 11 little 100-seaters, because I didn't want to jump straight in and put in a big tour and not sell it, because a couple of people have come a cropper on that recently, and I didn't want to be one of them. So I've started off with a very small tour that, if it sells, will hopefully become a bigger tour. Whereas her venues are bloody enormous, and if you couldn't do a double header, you'd be like 10 fans of mine and 2,000 of hers. It'd be stupid.
Now you say you kind of go to a smaller audience. What's been your most daunting gig?
Most daunting, the most fun stroke scary, probably the festivals, just because of the numbers. You do something like Reading or Leeds Festival or Download around here, you might be playing to a couple of thousand people, and everything's heightened in a festival. If they love you, and if they hate you, they really hate you. So it's, but the feeling of, if you're rocking a festival, it's an incredible feeling of power. And if you're a sort of insecure nerd, just the feeling that these 2,000 people really love you is great. And you sort of think, right, come on, let's march to Poland. No, okay, but it's lovely. But the reverse, if you cock up and they're not into you that day.
Well, brilliant. Well,
so,
good luck tonight.
Cheers. Thanks very much.
And thank you for joining us here backstage.
It's been a pleasure sharing some of Henny Youngman's anecdotes with you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.